I think Josh is watching a YouTube video.
Just scrolling.
Oh.
Because Philip DeFranco, I guess, did a story on the MCN thing that you're talking about too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 50 creators that are supposedly screwed out of this money. So they're trying to, and I'll talk about this really quickly in the video, but they're trying to kind of pull together against the bank that currently holds the, I guess, the assets of Defy Media since they went under, which is all kind of sketchy, but I don't know. In a small way, I kind of feel like shame on them for allowing themselves to get put in that spot. But maybe that's a little bit naive too. I don't know.
All right, we're online.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's that time once again. I'm Sean.
I'm Josh.
I'm Donovan.
And I'm Wes.
And you are listening to the Making Geeks podcast, a podcast for makers, dads, and geeks, episode 130. So, guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are y'all?
I am great.
Slow reactions. Okay.
Apparently, we're all tired.
I think everybody's just trying to be polite and not step on the other person, and then we end up in this deathless void.
Screw it. Just go over the top person. That's how
It's
natural
freezing
speak
cold
is.
outside.
Yeah. Have you getting snow up there?
No, it's just cold and everything is frozen. Like the entire side of my Jeep was frozen this morning. I couldn't open any of the doors. And oh, Wes, you guys don't have a minivan, do you?
No. We have a pilot and an element.
Donovan, do you have a minivan?
I
Did
do.
you guys decide to get one? But it hasn't
Yep.
frozen in Oklahoma yet, has it?
We got a little bit of frost this morning. So there was like that white, glazy, crystalline frost on the top of the cars, but not really like frozen as in like it's hard to get the car door open frozen. Just like oh, look, it's pretty outside. And it kind of looks like it may have snowed, but really didn't. So that's about it.
Legit frozen. And this is the first time I've really had to deal with, like the minivans now, you just kind of take the handle and you pull the handle. You don't really have to like yank on it like you used to. There's a micro switch. So you just kind of like pull the handle gingerly and the motor through the micro switch will just open the door. When I was a kid, we had like a big Ford Aerostar where you had to manhandle this like steel door and you had to slam it to get it closed. And so I tried to open the door to the van to let the kids in this morning, and you could hear the motor like, and it goes beep, 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 and just relocks itself, like just recloses. So you can't like open it. You can't pull against it to try to break free the ice because you're just pulling on pretty much a micro switch and through the handle. And I'm like, what in the world are you supposed to do with these vans? And like both sides were open. So we had to open the front door and have everybody like pile over the center console.
Clown car.
Yeah. And then I was talking to Bob's wife, Jenny, and she said the exact same thing this morning. They have a Honda Odyssey, and we've got a Sienna. I was like, that seems like an oversight. Like, you should be able to override that micro switch and just, like, smash open the door to break through the ice, but you can't. It just angrily beeped at me.
It reminds me of, like, the emergency actuated, like, systems on the airplanes, They have the electronic version. If that fails, you got the manual kind where you like crank something or turn something to, they should have the equivalent
Engage
of that.
the override.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the downfalls of everything.
So what are you supposed to do in like a case of an emergency where you have to open that door really quick, like even from the inside?
I don't know.
Window?
I think on the inside there is a handle. There's a button and there's a handle, and I think that handle may actually manually release the door. But I don't know. I'm a grown up and I sit in the front. I'm not sure.
So like if you lost battery power like in an accident or something, would you be able to open it?
I don't know.
And would somebody be able to open it from the outside to rescue you?
I don't know. I have a Honda not an Element. I have a Honda Odyssey, and I don't think there is. Maybe there is, but like I've never been able to get that door open without the motor like first, opening the door for you.
I gotta try it from the inside. I'm not sure, but that's
Sounds
where
like a
you're.
class action.
Yeah, probably. Or like the fierce mommy mode whenever danger strikes that you just start smashing windows.
I mean, because don't you always hear the car companies make a big deal? Oh, this car is tested in all conditions, and rain and ice and cold. Well, it doesn't seem like they skipped over that part.
I know in a Tesla, because everything is on the touchscreen, like if it senses an impact, there are things that will just like automatically disengage, like the doors will open and the glove box will open and a bunch of other stuff will happen. But like a minivan door is on rails, so it's not just like release the electromagnet holding the thing closed. It has to open and then slide like 3.5 feet backwards. I don't know. My kids are just doomed, I guess.
Well, my car literally has suicide doors on it, so what are you gonna do?
That's true.
I
Are you
didn't know they
talking
opened that
about
way.
the Element?
Yeah, Element.
Yeah. That's like
don't
my
think I
dream
realized
car. I know it's like a really lame dream car, but
Hey,
Honda Element.
That's like
that
a
was my
proud
dream
dad
car.
dream
Thank you very
car.
much.
No. I just like it's always been my favorite car ever since I first saw one. I'm like,
That's awesome.
Will your dad win?
I love that
I
car.
want to get one of those one day.
That PT Cruiser's looking pretty sweet, fellas.
Dad goals.
Back in the day, my dad was all about the PT Cruiser. Like, he loved the PT Cruiser. He had pictures of the PT Cruiser. He had little, like, box cars of PT Cruisers. And then one day he actually drove a PT Cruiser, and he's like, I don't like this car.
Yep.
So,
My mom bought one when I was in college, and I'm like, what in the world am I riding in right now? It's like it has an analog clock. Who has an analog clock? That's so stupid.
my dad, when I was in high school, bought a Geo Tracker because he
Nice.
thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Because they're like this big. They're tiny cars. And he's all like, we're going to go on a cross-country road trip. So we drove to California from northwestern Montana in a Geo Tracker. Well, like 2 days in, we stayed the night at one of his friend's house. And they had just painted, and the room that I slept in, the fumes had gotten to me. So the next morning when I woke up, I was like, oh, I don't feel so good. And we got in the car, and we were driving down the road. I'm like, oh, man, here it comes. And I covered my mouth, and I was like, and I threw up. And it, like, hit my hands, and then it sprayed everywhere. And since it's a Geo Tracker, everybody got covered in vomit. My dad sold the car after that trip because he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Not with kids. Now that I
Not
have
have places
kids,
to hide in there.
Yeah. Donovan, unzip the back if you're gonna puke.
oh man.
I used to think those cars were so cool when I was a kid because it was kind of a Jeep, and I think it was with my grandmother at one point. She was like, "You put a car seat in the back of that. That kid's gonna die if you bump into a stop sign." She's like, "It's got nothing. It's got no booty on it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
the smart cars now, I'm sure there's a lot worse. Like comparatively, they're safer, but from an
Smart
outside
cars.
view perspective, they have nothing.
I got hit by a smart car.
Really? While you were
when I was
walking
living-
around?
The irony.
when I was living in Taiwan, I was riding my bike and I was going over this bridge, and the smart car was going one way, and then apparently it like forgot the stove was left on or whatever, and so it like turns around right in front of me, going down this bridge, and all of a sudden it just stopped, like in the middle of the bridge, and I plow into it. Well, sitting on a bike, I was higher than the smart car. And so I hit it, my bike stayed, and I flipped over. And I don't know how I did it. It's my only like martial arts move I've ever done in my life. But I flipped over the smart car and landed on my feet and kind of like used the momentum to run down the rest of the way of the bridge. And then I walked back up the bridge, and it was so funny, like coming over and like the road coming down and seeing these two little, Taiwanese people in this little smart car. Their eyes were so big because they're like, what just happened? And so I walked up the smart car. I'm like, hey, are you guys okay? Is everything going okay? And I was speaking Chinese, so that really weirded him out. and there was this big white guy that, I mean, because they don't have a lot of foreigners over where I lived, and so two little Taiwanese people in this little car, and all of a sudden this big white guy just flies over the top of your car, and then comes to the car and it's like, hey, are you guys okay? Yeah, we're okay. And then they just kind of slowly drive off. I was like, well, that was interesting.
But you said the smart car hit you, right?
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. I hit the smart car, but it was not of any fault of my own. So. Sorry, that was a little off topic.
That was funny.
A good story.
Yeah.
Vomiting in geo trackers and clipping a smart car. I felt like Jackie Chan. I was like, yeah.
That's a story they went to go tell their family.
Yeah. You would not believe what happened today.
Some bald
saw
yeti
Van
ran
Damme
out in front of us. We thought we killed the white devil, but then he came back.
Chuck Norris has returned.
And he spoke to us.
Speaking Chinese, yeah.
Return
so
of the
what
Dragon.
Have you guys been working on? I know Wes had been working on because he just showed us.
Yeah, and I came out with a video. Oh my gosh.
They did.
Stop the presses. Thanks.
I thought it was good. The moment it came out, I showed my wife. I'm like, see, you should.
Is that what we need to do? All of our YouTube crews just need to be geared toward each other and convince our significant others to let us invest in things?
That was probably 10% of the motivation to make that video, was to try to convince your wife.
Almost there.
Yeah.
Almost there.
Yeah, a lot of people were requesting that video, actually. I had never had anybody really interested in what tools I use for anything. And so that was quite a difference for me when people were like, hey, what are you using there? Blah, blah, blah. Like, just when I first got it and up until now. Like, I never really got people to care about that sort of stuff. So it's definitely an interest out there.
And I think it's exactly to do with the way you opened it, talking about Glowforge.
Yeah.
Because I think that ignited a lot of people's interest, but nobody wants to dump that kind of money right now. But then seeing that there is a really affordable alternative that could get you pretty much the result that you want, I think is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I was struggling with how to present the video. Like, I could just do like a typical review, like just with the specs and everything. But I thought like a more practical, like user approach, and have like a little bit of story as to why I ended up with it, made it more compelling. So, plus I like the little really dad jokes I dropped in there. I liked them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably half of them fell flat, but I
laugh
laughed when I was editing them.
Yeah.
And like 80% of them I think of while I'm doing that. I didn't consider putting those in there while I was, brainstorming the scenes or, the parts and everything. So I'm like, oh, that looks kind of funny. What if I had a GIF that did this? I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely need a oh my reference, Oh my. But it was fun. But yeah, thanks guys.
And it's performing pretty well too.
Yeah.
That always helps.
It does. It's motivating for me to come out with my next project sooner, which is what the algorithm is supposed to do.
How much longer do you think it's going to take you to finish the NES?
Probably a week. Samantha has been tracked out. She's on year-round school, and she's been tracked out of school since before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's her longest break. 5 weeks. So she goes back Monday. So I'll actually have time during the day alone in the shop to knock it out, I think. But we've enjoyed the time together. Yep. Good.
Well, it's like she's been on sabbatical.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
From grade school.
What have you guys been up to?
I finished a couple projects this week. One was just a simple napkin holder with some CNC work on it that my wife was asking for, and see if I could batch those out in a bigger amount. I didn't record it, and it was actually kind of nice not trying to film what I was making. and project went twice as fast. I mean, I've experienced that before, but sometimes it's more therapeutic, that way. And then the project that I am filming is making a CNC cart well, not a CNC cart, computer cart for my CNC machine, and that is almost done. I just have to attach the top and finish it. I'm thinking, I'm using some scrap melamine that I had from a stupid closet that fell apart that I'm going to try to make as part of the story. Do you guys have any tips on, it might even seem kind of dumb, but painting melamine? 'Cause I really don't like that surface. I know.
Primer.
I was thinking just primer too.
Mhm.
I know it's a clean surface and it's pretty durable that way. I don't like the surface.
Glossy too. It's got a coating on it.
Yeah.
You might
Maybe
try
I'll
like
save it.
buffing it, maybe with some like steel wool or something like that before putting the primer on, so there's more adhesion to it.
Yeah. Maybe I'll test.
Otherwise,
it
it might just chip off, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be the risk of just painting it. Is the fact that the gloss underneath the paint would make the paint chip off.
Or it doesn't coat evenly. Or I don't know. I've never painted melamine, but it makes me think back to when we tried to paint the RV cabinets that were that same kind of glossy, like almost texture. That when you put the primer on it, it's, I don't even know the word, but it kind of congealed, like it didn't spread. It had this very cellular look. I don't know, like tripe, like you were gonna eat tripe. It was weird, and so we had to like go over at least 3 different rolls just of primer just to try to get an even distribution.
Maybe I should do something really dumb and just wallpaper it.
Yeah,
That's what
well,
I
I
was
was about
thinking.
to say, like, what about what do they call it?
Contact paper.
Mod
Contact
Podge.
paper. Yeah,
Maybe I'll think about that.
Hydro dip.
laminate
Ooh.
laminate boards.
You should draw something on it.
It'll wipe off.
Yeah.
Sharpie might stick.
I don't think it does. I think it beads up.
I don't know. I just made my outfeed table out of melamine, so I haven't drawn on it. I've got a bunch of crap on it, but I haven't drawn on it. But it's kind of neat because I did a panel glue up, and all the little beads of glue that would normally drip on like a MDF workbench that would kind of tear up some of it. It just like pops right off.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad surface. It just, I don't like the color, with the bright white, but maybe I'll just figure something out. Maybe I'll put the contact papers on the top side. Yeah, so that video I'm hoping will be out next week.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, I'm finishing up my shop aprons. I wanted to have the video for them done by today, but lunchtimes go by way too fast. And so I got 1 done, 2 are almost done. So I'm hoping to have the video for that done by tomorrow or Saturday. But I'm also trying to figure out how to do my Miles Morales headphone stand. I cut the thing that I designed. I cut out of not plexiglass.
Is it going to be clear?
Acrylic. I cut it out of acrylic. No, I'd like the main one. I want it to be out of maple and walnut. So the white and the black, and then get some either Paduke or Bloodwood for the eyes.
My suggestion was a joke. Sorry.
Okay.
Because he turns invisible in the movie. Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah. Okay. I didn't pick up on that. No, I first I took my design and I cut it all out of acrylic, and I really don't like how it looks, and so I'm having to go back and redesign it to make it look better, if that makes sense. Before cutting it out of wood, because I'm gonna have to use a scroll saw to cut out all the pieces and try and fit them all together. To make the final one. So I'm just doing acrylic right now to pick a design that I like. I also got hired to make a bed frame, an oak bed frame. So no video for that, but that is something that I'm working on.
Cool. Headboard too?
No, not a headboard, just the base and everything like that.
I saw a bed the other day without a headboard. And for some reason, it looked like the foot of the bed was up higher, because I'm so used to, like, every bed that I've made has had a headboard, and so it's been where the head of the bed has been visually higher.
Yeah.
And when there's nothing there, it created this weird, like, that something is empty, and not only is it empty, but it looked strange.
It's a different way to do it.
You need headboard. So my base is almost done.
Yeah,
Looks pretty ace.
it's looking good.
So I got really impatient, and I bolted on the neck that was unfinished, and I put strings on it. I tuned it up. I wanted to play it, and I was playing it. My daughter was playing it. Everybody was having a good time. And then I took it to Bob's, and he has his amp set up. I'm like, well, I'm going to test the electronics because I soldered everything up. I followed the wiring diagram. It was pretty straightforward. It's 4 potentiometers, ground them all, goes to a 1/4-inch jack where the amp cable plugs in. It didn't work. Like nothing worked. It didn't buzz. It didn't pop. Not a single thing. So I tried a new cable. Didn't work. Tried Bob's bass on the amp. It worked fine. So I got real disheartened and irritated, and I took it home. I went over it again, and I'm like, every single thing is where it is supposed to be. I did continuity tests, did the whole thing, and so I went on the forum for the Pitbull Guitars, is the company that I got the kit from, and like 8 pages deep into the wiring pickups thing, I found someone talking about the particular kit that I got, and then like 5 pages deep into that particular thread, there was one guy that was like, oh, instead of doing it like it says, you need to solder it to this one instead of that one. And I'll be damned, it worked. So there's like 3 prongs. There's a long one and 2 short ones. And it says that the ground should be on the long and the hot should be on this one particular short. And it was wrong. The ground should be on one of the shorts and the hot should be on the other one. So I went back and I desoldered something that are like probably 4 different wires that were kind of ugly just in case. I was like, if I have to take a picture of this and send it to anybody, because that was a common thing on these threads, I was like, I don't want it to remotely look bad, just so it'll stop somebody from going like, can you get a better picture? Or maybe that one's touching. So like it looked, my soldering job, my cable management, everything looked beautiful. It still didn't freaking work. And then I finally found that thing and I desoldered it. Worked just great. So that's working, but it has no strings on it now because I had to take the neck and everything off. So the electronics work, but I can't play it because it's got no strings. And the head of the guitar, where like the tuners, where you tighten the strings and like where it would normally say Fender or whatever, I got a piece of walnut veneer because it's maple, where the body's walnut. And I got a piece of veneer and I put it on the Glowforge. And so my Fender or Gibson or whatever kind of logo is my signature. And so I laser engraved it on that piece of walnut, and now I'm going to transfer that to the head, sand it all down to where it's nice and curvy and pretty, and then finish the neck, bolt it back together, and then it'll be done.
Cool.
I was getting majorly irritated for about... I was like, I'm just not going to look at this thing anymore because it's something glaringly obvious that I did wrong. And then I gave myself like a breather day and came back. I'm like, nope, everything's still right.
So their instructions are still just out of date, like they're just wrong.
Yeah, they're
for
wrong.
that particular kit.
Yep.
That's horrible.
That's awful.
And that fix was posted in 2016. So that was a little irritating, but it works.
Very cool. So for today, we are talking about some business aspects of YouTube, and specifically in response to a video that came out either today or yesterday. I don't remember when the original release date was, from the Game Theorist, specifically Matt Pat, for anybody that's familiar with the channel, was talking about an MCN that he and a bunch of other people were a part of at one time that went out of business and then still owes $1.7 million to its creators.
And MCN is what?
An MCN is a multi-channel network, which I guess in YouTube terms is kind of like a management company that is supposed to, I guess, network with other people and do almost like I don't think it's profit sharing, but they're supposed to work with you to help you get more views. And people's dealings with MCNs have varied from being extremely disappointed. Some people are kind of okay with them, but they usually don't get talked about in a very positive manner. And stories like this really don't help the situation at all. So I thought we'd talk a little bit today about some of that business side of YouTube and see where we think it might be going in the future, and just other trends, and maybe just picking each other's brains a little bit for this episode. So we might be a little bit all over the place as we kind of explore some of this.
Well, Sean, I think you might be the only person who's had any kind of experience with an MCN, right?
Well, I don't want to say I've experienced. I've been approached by several that have made various offers based on either a single video because they wanted a share of the profits of the video, or just for me to join their MCN. And I've never taken anybody up on it. And luckily enough, we've had some pretty positive, influential people within our maker group that have kind of stepped forward and gave us kind of the lowdown on the MCNs that isn't really easy to discern from whatever legal material they give you to read about the MCN. And I don't think I've really talked about or talked to anybody that has had a really positive experience where they said it really helped their channel.
Well, how did your initial interaction go? They email you out of the blue after a video did really well, or how did that work?
I had 3 or 4 unsolicited emails that were trying to court me into signing with the MCN, and from the look of it, it's a mass email. And I think the way it worked simply is that they send this out to probably 1,000 different people. They see what sticks and see who they can sign. And that's really about it. I didn't talk to anybody one-on-one because I never took it to that point to have a conversation with anybody. I didn't think that I had that much to offer. And because my channel, and this is a year and a half, probably almost 2 years ago already, and my channel is about half the size that it is now. I didn't think my channel had that much to offer. I didn't really think I had that much to gain. And I had 1 video or 2 videos at that time that were doing fairly well. And that represented, 90% of any money I was making. And if I had to share that with somebody else, it just didn't make any sense. If my channel's not generating that much traffic, what good am I to them, really? I'm just lining their pockets without getting much in return. And I thought it was more just like a common sense thing on my part, and, supported by, the people that I had talked to, whoever's, brain I had, tried to pick on the matter. And one thing that I found out through watching that video today, and Donovan, if I misrepresent anything, let me know because I know you watch this too, is simply when the MCNs are acquiring these networks, we're not acquiring the networks, but they're doing deals with these different channels. They are, because of the way the MCN is set up, they are posting revenue based on what their creators are doing and what the creators are making. But it's not actually the MCN's money. It's passing from YouTube to the MCN, who is then supposed to cut a check to the creators. So it is really, really kind of a shady situation. So that these MCNs, just like any kind of network or studio, their goal, like almost anybody else, is to get bought out. So let me show that I have like this big portfolio. We have a huge cash flow revenue, and let me sell it to somebody else. Except that money isn't actually the MCNs; it doesn't belong to them. And
the creator kind of forfeits that profit to them.
It isn't supposed to work that way. The MCN,
well, I know the MCN experience that I had is very, very little, and then, like I said, the solicited kind of information that we get from people that we know in our community is that, like, if you are approached by one, that the thing that you should look for the most is have a guaranteed payment of X amount.
Right.
Because what they'll do is you'll pretty much transfer over the monetization of your video to them. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Transfer over the monetization of your video to them, and then they give you back a certain percentage because they will promise to spread it and use their influence to make the video grow, thereby doing more for your video than you could by yourself.
Theoretically.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble whether or not your video or your piece of content or your library of content will grow organically by itself and you get everything that you put into it, or you surrender that to them and then it grows farther beyond what you could have done by yourself, and whatever percentage or guaranteed payout you get from them is beneficial to you.
Yeah. And I've never heard of anybody having that experience, because that's what most people get kind of sold on. and it doesn't usually happen. The one example, there's two things I'll talk about really quickly, and we can kind of have the conversation kind of evolve from there. Is that when Matt Pat was talking in the video, he said that I think there's 1 or 2 months where they got a message from the MCN that said, "Are you guys okay with us not paying you this month because we're having trouble meeting payroll or whatever it was," which is really kind of dumb. But found out that they were holding onto that money because they were trying to shop themselves around for a buyout from somebody else. So then it made it look like their cash holdings were larger than what they actually were.
And that's called fraud, boys and girls.
Yep. And then the funny thing that happened is that, and I think a lot of people might have heard of this studio, although they may not know it as an MCN, but it's one of the bigger ones around for a while called Maker Studios. They got sold to Disney for like $70 million.
Like,
and then
627 million.
No, you're right. It was actually more than that. It was like over 600 million.
Yeah.
And then when Disney finally got a hold of the company, I can't believe that Disney did this. How do you not look into financials before you acquire a company for that much? Found out there was nothing there. The Maker Studios didn't actually have any money. I think it was.
Well, they
Disney's.
do now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they still own sort of the rights to the monetization of those channels and those creators that fall under that network. But yeah, it was very surprising seeing Disney buying an MCN because, kind of like Matt Pat said, it's like you've got business people who have no idea how this industry and how this business runs. And so, they look at things on paper and it could be appealing, being an investor for some big company to say, hey, the holdings of this company are X number of dollars, not realizing that those X number of dollars are actually the earnings of all the people that are in that network, and not how much the network itself is bringing in, but how much, the creators are bringing in. And so it's kind of deceiving. But I don't feel too bad for Disney. It's a drop in their bucket.
I'm just wondering, what is the next step in all of this? Because every new media that comes out has this weird period of, almost kind of like rebellion, growth, kind of settling, takes in investors, takes in advertising, and then starts looking like all of the old media of the past.
Yeah. This kind of relates to I used to listen to Gary Vee quite a bit back when everybody was like Gary Vee this and Gary Vee that, and I was like, okay,
Gary
Gary Vee?
for anybody that doesn't know the full name.
Yeah. And Gary Vee was saying, it's like, hey, there's Instagram, and there's all of these new markets that is severely underpriced because the amount you can pay to get the exposure for your content is so cheap. And once corporations see how cheap it is, they're going to come in here and they're going to turn this sphere into their business model, like they do with everything else. And you are kind of seeing that. I mean, YouTube used to be a place for content creators, and now the biggest channels on YouTube and the ones that are like promoted are like NBC and Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and like all of these network mainstream celebrities, and not the creators. YouTube sent me like one of those questionnaires saying it's like, hey, let us know your experience as a content creator in YouTube, and a large part of it was was talking about the discover, or the trending section on YouTube, and saying it's like, how do you feel the trending section on YouTube works for you? Is it a good place to discover new content creators? And for all of these questions that it kept asking me about, I was like, no, no. And they're like, if not, then why? And every time, they ask a question like that, I was like, because the only people that are promoted on the trending tabs are mainstream celebrities and public figures and things like that. It's very, very rare that I go to the trending tab and see like an up and coming content creator rather than, a mainline public figure. But it's being taken over slowly but surely.
But there was a question somebody posed a long time ago about like network TV, like TV as you would think of from your childhood, and that has gone kind of the way. Was that would TV ever exist like as a thing if not for commercials? Like people like to think like, oh, I love my shows and they speak to me in comedy and theater and all this, but like, would television ever exist if it had no commercials to it? Or as Friends or Thundercats or whatever, like the only reason that they exist is so that commercials can be pushed to you and as a marketing avenue.
I don't think I've thought about it that way. I've always thought about it kind of reverse. Where
Because marketing is doing a really good job.
Well, no, I mean, it's probably not that different than what you're saying, but somebody has to pay for the bill.
Yep.
And that's where advertising comes in. I mean, I don't think it's saying that much different than what you were, I think, already trying to say.
So well, I say that, like, because YouTube lowered the barrier to entry, so anybody could post a TV show if they wanted to. And lowering the barrier of entry, reducing the amount of overhead you have, the less expensive it is to create. That's why everybody in the world creates it. There's 4 whatever million or billion minutes of or seconds of YouTube, posted every day, something ridiculous. And so the more, and we see this at I Like to Make Stuff, like the more people consume the content, the more you have to put out. And the bigger your stuff has to be to stay relevant or to continue to grow your audience. And so your costs increase, and so eventually you're going to need to pay for that somehow. And then people that were diehard because you were a starving artist putting things out that they liked for free are now offended because you have sponsors. And it's YouTube is I don't think any different from network TV in the fact that it would still be in its infancy with people uploading cat videos from their phone, which I'm sure people love. Yeah. If not for the marketing and the advertising bit. Because that's how YouTube exists, man. Marketing people give YouTube a big bag of money, and then they distribute out tiny little fractions of that money to everybody else who gets a view on their platform. And so an MCN it's someone else trying to capitalize on the popularity of someone else, which is exactly what marketing does. And it's weird to think about. Like, we work in DIY project environment where we have to stop and think about like, oh, these companies and this and these MCNs, because they're marketing, and it puts your content in a whole different light at how it can be consumed by an advertiser. Or is it marketing friendly, or you're an influencer, you're not a woodworker. And so it puts what you do and how you choose to do it in a very corporate-y light, that your true believers can very easily get offended by those things, but I don't think fully realize what it means to essentially be a television show replacement.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's like one of the really big reservations I have with sponsorships and things like that, is exactly what you were talking about. Like that, because I mean, I look at my own reaction to like paid sponsorships, or paid content, or whatever you want to call it. And anytime someone in their video starts saying, I'd like to thank our sponsor for today's video, or this video is brought to you by, like, I just fast forward, okay, back to the content. Like, I look at my own response to other people's content, and I'm like, oh man, like, is that what it's going to be with my content? People are just going to start fast forwarding through. Because I mean, I don't have sponsors, and I'm small fries, so I don't have to worry about that. But I mean, that's something I have to consider when thinking about the longevity of my own channel and the viability of my own channel, and the fact that it's like, I don't want to be a mechanism for somebody else to make money off of me, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm ever going to do a sponsorship or a partnership or whatever you want to call it, I want it to be with a company that like wants to partner with me because of me. not because of my audience, but because they want to work with me. They like my stuff, they, things like that, rather than, hey, we want to use you for your audience to sell this and this. Like, I already have a day job where, I work to make other people money. Like, it's that's what my day job is. I don't want my my hobby, my passion work to be exactly like my day job, because like I said, I already make money for somebody else. I don't want to do that, with the stuff that I like doing.
Yeah, but let's say Walmart comes to you tomorrow and offers you $10,000 for your next video. Do you take it?
No, I don't. I don't like Walmart. I mean, it's a principle of the thing, but like, this is a little bit of a side story, but when I lived over in Taiwan, I saw a lot of like sweatshops and things like that, because everything is made in China. But what China does is that they subcontract out to subcontractors, and so all of the little pieces that are put together before they're assembled in China are made in these smaller countries like Taiwan. And so I went in these little sweatshops and whatnot and saw the working conditions that the people there had to go through to build this stuff. And I remember one of the last days that I was in Taiwan before I came back to the States, I was in one of these little shops, and a guy was making these little doll plates, those little plastic plates, with the little flowers on them to go like to get paired with a doll. And he was just covered in these like plastic shavings, and his hands were cracked and bleeding. I'm like, dude, your life is terrible. This is terrible. Like, that you have to do this. But it was how he made money. And it was kind of funny because it's like, a few days after that, I came back to the States, and a few days after being in the States, my parents took me to Walmart, and I walked in the front door, and there was this display with this new doll or whatever that came out. And sure enough, in that little doll package were those little plates that just a few days ago I had, been with a guy that was pressing the machines to make these little plates. And so I turned around and walked out and never went back into Walmart for like 4 years. Because I'm like, no, I can't support this.
That's
So
okay.
Walmart-
I'll take the Walmart money.
Okay, you can take the Walmart money. That's
Well-
the principal thing.
I think your outlook is very admirable because you want to stick to your principles, and you
It's also
have.
why I'm poor.
Well, that was going to be the flip side of that.
Starving artist.
It's your compliment sandwich. Like, you have your compass, you know what you want. But at the same time, if you were to go up to, like, you're going to go to Workbench Con and you're going to be face to face with the influencer marketing professionals who it is their job. Like, everybody has a boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that person who's standing there in a Craig or an IsoTunes or a Home Depot or a whoever t-shirt, and they're just there schmoozing and telling you about their stuff, and their job is to go to this thing so that they can generate sales revenue somehow through a marketing director, through an ad agency, through a sales department, through a boardroom, so that their graphs can go up and to the right. And so they're looking for anybody, usually the biggest return on investment. So they're going to give you or give anybody else up to them who comes up to them tools, or you say $10,000, good grief, maybe $300 or $400, and maybe free tools for your content. And it's not because you're the handsomest guy in the room, and it may be because you have a cool project idea. But the only reason they care about your cool project idea is in their head they're calculating, well, how many people are going to think that is also cool, therefore they're going to watch it, therefore I can get my product in front of their eyeballs.
Yeah.
Because that's
And, like,
all it is how many people can they put their widget. YouTube is direct marketing. It's really awesome. It's so much better than regular TV, because you be watching the Super Bowl and get a Tampax commercial, and already 3/4 of that audience doesn't care. If someone's watching a how-to video and you have a tool or something related to tools, a huge percentage of your audience is already interested in that, and that's what people pay for, and that's what MCNs have access to, all of that that demographic and metric data.
Yeah.
And so they know with YouTube creators, if they're big enough, that means proportionally more eyeballs should be looking at them.
See,
So
that's the key right there. Because like after you didn't text me back about the whole what a media packet was, I went and Googled it and found out what a media packet was, and I was like, oh no, I can't do that, because like for me, for somebody that doesn't have the audience and doesn't have the views and things like that, a media packet I think would hinder me more than it would help me at Workbench Con.
Maybe. Because it's
Because
really
a large
difficult.
part of the media packet was like views within first 24 hours, retention,
Yep.
audience retention, watch time, all that other kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I have 2 to 4 minute videos. Like I have good retention, but very low watch time because my videos are so short. And I'm like, any kind of I can offer you 90 views within the first 24 hours. How does that sound? Like, I think it would hurt me. My numbers would hurt me more than they would help me if I'm trying to go that route.
Well, and in those numbers in that media packet, those people have access to that already. They don't need you to tell them that. You can give them that media packet because it looks professional and it shows that you know what you're doing. But that media packet, as soon as you hand it to them, is already outdated. So that information they already know because people will try to overinflate their statistics, and then those companies will already know that this person is a liar. So those are the things that they look at. And if you don't think that those things are substantial enough or grabby enough, then it is your idea. Sell them on an idea, again, that...
Again, wanting to work with people that want to work with me because of me, not because of my audience.
But no, that's still one and the same. It's exactly one and the same. And they could maybe like you, and then you can become they think, well, if I get him early enough and I give him some tools or things that will routinely show up in his videos or in his posts. I co-host a podcast. I have this many Instagram followers. I have this many of this because they want to see distribution of their stuff. They can pay you $1, and then through all of your social media outreach, you can spread that dollar everywhere. And that's what they want. They want the cheapest amount of buy-in for the largest amount of eyeballs on the stuff that they give you. Mm-hmm. And so an idea that is cool that you could highlight their product, or if they have like an ancillary like free plan site or blog post that you could contribute to, things like that, like besides just a YouTube video, because they'll have a dossier of people they want to talk to for YouTube. Mm-hmm. So you're probably not going to be able to walk up to Home Depot and go, these are my numbers, I'm going to make a cool thing, give me some of that Home Depot money, because Home Depot wants relationships. They want people on the Home Depot team. A lot of those people at Workbench Con type area, they talk about the relationships that they have. So if they can start a relationship with you early enough, and then you can help them on their like plans site, or you can push stuff through Instagram, and then when they see how that stuff performs, and if it does okay enough, and if they care enough, and if you're charming enough, then you could try to re-up that kind of relationship for maybe a little bit of money now. And it's an ebb and flow, especially on a young channel, that you're going to have to continue to build. But to build that as a young channel, you're going to have to be a cheerleader for them, because they're looking for a return on their investment. That's exactly what they want.
Sean, for you, how long has your channel been monetized?
Over 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, the monetization rules changed after I already met my requirement. So I was already in and had surpassed that. And then I had the 2 or 3 videos that took off quite a bit.
So in our conversation talking about MCNs and like people feeling like they need MCNs to get more exposure, to do better with their videos, and to make more money, like, do you see much of a return on, like, so to speak, a return on your investment with monetizing your channel just by yourself?
For me, yes, but I think I got lucky.
Yeah.
I got some. Well,
I mean, your Pac-Man video is a couple million, so that helps, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the lightsaber one just hit 1 million last month, I think. But I got lucky in a couple different ways. So I had some really early media exposure. I had a write-up in with Make, I started writing for Make, got involved with a podcast, and then I had the two videos that did pretty well. So I just got lucky that way. But if you look at the average views of the rest of my videos, they haven't really been performing, proportionally compared to those other ones. So most of the money that I make is, 90% of it is off like 4 different videos. So monetizing has been great for me because I've been pulling a constant paycheck for almost 3 years now. And because I've been pulling that paycheck and have a W-2 to show, it actually helped me get my current teaching position with animation. So yeah, it's been beneficial to me.
Wow.
And I could push it a lot further. I just have not been consistent at all. I see where I could increase things, but I haven't. I have. It's kind of like the metaphor I'd used last week, where you dump out the tennis balls in front of a dog, they don't know which one to pick. It's like that for me because I haven't chosen YouTube as my singular focus for everything, and there's too many things that I'm working on at once. It's like I only have this much water. How many different glasses do I pour it into? But I think Wes is a good person to talk to also because, Wes, you've had sponsorship deals that you've done with what Bordeaux butt paste or Fatherly.
Wait,
I've
paste,
had
really?
none of that.
Well, not that one specifically, not directly through them. So Fatherly was the company that they approached me to make a video for them, and their company that was getting them to have a video made was the Bordeaux's butt paste cream or whatever. Because Fatherly is like a parenting website, parenting blog. They have a Facebook channel or a Facebook page, Instagram, all that stuff. So they came and approached me. They wanted me to make a video of a changing table, and we decided upon a space theme. I think I threw up a couple different options, and they chose space. And so as long as I had the Bordeaux's product in a couple of the shots, they took like a ton of video footage from me. I just uploaded everything to Google Drive. I had to upgrade my Google Drive for like a month just to hold all the raw footage because I'm like, you want all of this? They're like, yes. And I was not cutting corners with that footage. It was like 200 gigs worth of data they were like churning through, and they made like a 1.5 minute video of my stuff. And I still have the option of making my own video with that footage. I think I have to get them to approve it or something, but it can exist on my channel. So I still have that raw footage as well. But yeah, it was the first experience, and it's the only experience I've had with them, with a company making a video for somebody else. And once I created the changing table, I'm like, what do you want me to do with the changing table? They're like, oh, give it away or something. We don't care. They just literally wanted to pay for the footage, which was cool for me. And it was a learning experience that I did not charge them enough either. I had asked several of our fellow content creators, including Izzy Swan. I'm like, hey, I've got 3 weeks to make this project. How much would you charge? And he's like, oh, $4,000. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, good joke. And then I asked a couple other people, and they gave like lower, like on the 1,000 area of amount. And I was like, okay, I told them 1,500, and they didn't even like bat an eye. They didn't negotiate it at all. I'm like, dang it. Maybe it really was closer to Izzy's $4,000. If I would have said 3 or something like that, they could have come back with something. I was just so gun shy. I didn't want to like immediately turn them away with like, because I had no frame of reference, right? So I was like trying to rely on I cast the net to a bunch of different people and got a whole wide range of responses, and I went with the low end. And so I was just very hesitant I was so afraid of putting a number out there. Then they're like, okay, thanks. And they would shut the door, and you're guessing that magic number, which it might not have been that touch and go. It could have been a series of emails back and forth, whittling it down to what the amount they were willing to pay. But 1,500 was well in their pocketbook. I'm sure they took the rest of that, possibly $2,500 that was of the 4,000 that Izzy suggested, and like, thank you, we're going to keep that extra money, and because they already got paid by Bordeaux potentially of a certain amount, multi-thousands of dollars.
Exactly what they do.
Yep.
Like
And
we had talked about Out Loud.
Yeah.
That Out Loud is like an in-between between a bunch of companies and individual content creators. And some people who are doing well can get approached by them. And it's the same thing. They
Yep.
will put themselves as a representative of the influencer, of the YouTuber, of the maker, and then receive these, sponsorship deals from like Audible and a bunch of other people like
Mm.
that, and they'll kind of divvy them out. And depending on all of that metric data, Donovan, that you were talking about, they can throw out a number, and that number is based on their it takes out their profit already. And then if you're willing to negotiate for a smaller rate because you're a smaller channel or you don't know any better or any of those other reasons, then that's just extra stuff that they get to keep. Their return on investment for you is way higher because you didn't value your stuff high enough.
Yep.
Even though your metric data may not show that you have that value, it's something that you have to continue to build your own value in other people's eyes.
And it's funny too, going back to that fatherly relationship. So the person I contacted and that I talked through like getting this settled and like what the terms were and what I was going to make for him, ended up he was like one of the founders of Fatherly, like originally. And a couple years after that, they came back and wanted to know if I was interested in doing some other stuff because they have this new influencer program. They like they were using that as the buzzword at the time. This was like a year ago or more, probably a year and a half ago. And they're like, yeah, we're going to add you to our catalog of maker dads. You're going to be an influencer in this space, da da da. And they like had me fill out this form, and like it was like a homework assignment. I was busy at the time. I didn't really want to do it, but I was like, all right, let me do this. Send it. I've never heard another word from them. With that particular idea of me making a video and you pay me money. One thing they did at the beginning of last year, they're like, hey, we're doing this new thing with our Instagram page, and we're gonna let influencers, quote unquote, take over their Instagram page and post a video. I forget what the rate was. It was like within a week, it was like 2 videos a day or something like that. And I was selected as one of the first, I guess, of the group of people that were doing it last year. And I thought I did a good job. They had like 30,000 followers or something on Instagram. I was like, this is going to help my numbers. This is going to be sweet. And I thought I had some pretty good videos. I put like a lot of effort into it. Not so much that it was not worth, overspending my time, but I thought it was a fair trade for the quality I was putting out. And like their community, like people, no one would send me messages or comment on anything. It was almost like those 30,000 people didn't exist. Like if you, like on just a percentage level, the amount of talkback that I got from those posts was like 1 or 2 messages out of a pool of 30,000. And myself, I have like maybe 6,000 followers or something on Instagram. And if I post a message of like, here's my K40 laser I got, I'll get like 10 or 20 messages. So like the ratio is off. Something was not jiving, and like I didn't get very much of a return of my time investment for taking over their Instagram, even though it sounded really sweet. I don't know. It was, you never know what you're going to get from these places.
But that's the stuff you got to look at too. Like when when I get back data from sponsors, sometimes we'll get it back, sometimes we won't, of like how a campaign will do. And it's like, this is how much traffic you drew to the site. This is how much that equaled in direct sales. And I look at that and I go, dang, really? Like, I would have thought all of that effort with all of our potential audience, because subscriber count means far less now than it used to. Those things that you talked about, your retention rate, your how many clicks within the first, I think it was like 2 weeks or whatever. Just because somebody has 5 million subscribers doesn't mean that they're active subscribers, doesn't mean that they care. They just want to be associated with that person. And so you look at what the company took in and what it cost them to have us do it for them. It's like, oh, well, either we came out on ahead or they came out ahead. And so with a channel, I guess as big and influential, whatever, as I like to make stuff, and seeing that kind of data, it made me think about like, oh, a smaller channel. Like if I were to do this for my workshop, like that's why they offer free tools, is because sometimes their return on investment is so negligible that a piece of product that they're going to get at cost to them is a drop in the bucket. And so when I went to Workbench Con, that's what I was out to get. I wasn't out to get money because I knew I wasn't going to get any. I knew it was going to be a whole lot of work on my part, a whole lot of groveling for almost nothing. Then that almost nothing money is just going to get wrapped back into my family's budget and end up paying for, applesauce and crap. So I went looking for free tools. So my pitch to Craig and to other people was like, well, you have a new platform. You need people to make stuff for your new platform to add legitimacy. I will give you this many free sets of plans, and all I need in return is the stuff to build it. Because I knew that the tools in my shop were going to outlast any $300 or $400 potential paycheck they were going to get. And they cared a lot less about dealing with me because it wasn't financial. The marketing team has like a certain amount of free tools they're allowed to give away. And so she was like, oh, well, if you want to get paid, it's going to have to wait till the next budgetary cycle, which makes sense because it was in between. She's like, but if you're willing to work for tools, we can get that out right now. I'm like, Dunzo, let's do some tools, because I can make all kinds of stuff with that I may not purchase with that $300. And if you give me $300, I have to buy it retail, which automatically is going to eat more of that money that you gave me.
And applesauce.
Yeah. So I think back to your earlier comments about like sponsorship and stuff, I think you need to set what it is you want from them. Because like, if they like you, that's great. But they only want you because it's going to benefit them.
That's a terrible relationship to have.
Well, I mean, that's anybody. And it's anybody outside of your family.
I know.
And your friends. Like, it's a symbiotic relationship. You do well for them, and they're going to do so. It's mutual. It should be mutual.
The metrics are never going to... I shouldn't say never. The metrics are often not going to ever show you as favorable as you want. And I'll give you a quick example why, and I think this happens with a lot of people. So, Josh, I'm going to assume this has happened with like the Lowe's videos that you've been working on with Bob. There was a video I saw of Ben Ueda's a while ago where he used the certain grout from Home Depot to grout in something that he CNC'd. I saw the video, I loved it, I love the technique, and I wanted to try it, and I've used it on a bunch of projects now. I love it. I watched his video, I saw the grout that he used, I went to Home Depot and bought it. I didn't click on any links from his video. I didn't click through on anything of his, but I found the brand and I went and did it. Other than my view, there's no way to track that it influenced that specific purchase.
Yeah.
Well, that's on the specific company. Because you'll see people like, oh, go click on the affiliate link. Like, that is a way for the company and the influencer to directly track how much you're bringing in. But on the whole, let's say company, let's say Home Depot. I don't know Home Depot. I don't have any affiliation with Home Depot. I'm using them as a broad term example. So their marketing department says that this company, say Maypie or whoever the grout company is, they're giving us more money to push their stuff. So we're going to put it in end caps. They gave us advertising budget. So they'll go, sales team gives a pot of money to advertising team. And advertising team goes, okay, we're going to do this in the stores. We're going to do this in commercials during the Super Bowl. And hey, internet influencers, here's a little bit of money for you guys. Go out and do some target direct marketing. And so then they go, well, let's go through our Rolodex of people that we know that usually make us a return on investment. There's Ben. Give some money to Ben. Here's, I don't know, DIY Huntress or whatever. Or here's Blogger X or Blogger Y. And then we have a little bit of this money left over. We don't even know what to do with it. Oh, I remember. Sean wrote me this email one time that says, hey, if you ever have something to do with grout, here's an awesome project I have to do with grout. Keep this in your back pocket and think about me. Then they go, I have a little bit of that money left after dishing out to all these famous people. I'll go give that one guy a ring and throw a little bit to him. That's how you have to approach that at your kind of level, because you're not in the Rolodex. So you have to have a hook and go, keep this on your mind, keep me in mind. I had a cool thing. So when you're divvying up that cash, this is really going to be beneficial if you have any left over. Not, don't word it exactly like that, but mind frame. And so whenever after the next quarter, my pay or the tile company goes, hey man, how did our advertising money do? I saw a bump in our sales. That must have been because of Home Depot or Company X or whoever. Thanks a bunch. And then down the line, they all shake the hands of the people because the original buyer was happy. The tile company was happy. So they go, okay, whatever you guys did down the line, marketing team, influencer marketing team, you guys did good. Do that again or do it more. And so up the line, they will get that sales data, and sometimes they can track exactly where it came from through affiliate links or through specific tags on things. But a majority of the time, it's everybody down the line gets a little acrylic plaque from head office because they did good in 2018 because they grew 1% sales. It's sometimes it's a big umbrella, like, hooray, we sold more of X. We may not know exactly where it came from, but you did good. And sometimes it's very clear to, like, where you have links in the description, you have an affiliate link that you would type in and then they can directly track. And so it depends on the company. There's been a bigger push recently to use those direct links, stuff that you would see, not really necessarily see in the background. Like,
Swipe up.
yeah, for the Lowe's stuff, like, we have a link. You click on that link and we add a bunch of stuff that you'll never see to it, and then Lowe's can track where that stuff came from.
Yeah,
so there's a
we've been
bigger
doing that
push
for
to-
years on the website.
Yeah,
That's
so it's a
not
lot
bad.
more subtle than, like, enter in Jim Joe's Woodworks at checkout. You don't need to be as overt. No.
Well, I'm sure we'll revisit that sometime in the future as things change or somebody else comes out with a whiny video about not getting paid. So, what are you guys geeking out about this week?
My maker knife. My maker knife is fun. It is
You
neat.
laser engraved.
Yeah, it makes a cool sound. This is the maker knife that Jocko whatever put on Kickstarter. And I laser beamed it in the Glowforge. I got the black one that I knew that you could laser into the black and, like, make cool designs. So I made a little honeycomb thing and put my name on it, and I don't know. People thought it was neat, but this knife is really awesome. I really love my old knife. I've had my old knife all through a deployment. It was great. This thing is thinner. It has a replaceable blade. I don't have to worry about sharpening it. It's quick release. I love this knife. It's super dope. I think people can buy it because somebody asked me yesterday if it was worth the money. I said yes, and then I saw that they bought one. I don't know how to do that. But if you're thinking about it, because it's very popular, because people all over the place are doing unboxing videos, and you want in on it, I suggest it.
It's probably on back order, isn't it? It's
I've
got to be
no
on back
idea.
order.
If only we had an affiliate link for that maker knife. Nice.
Well, it's funny that Bob, the guy who did the voiceover for the commercial, doesn't have his, because Jocko did something special for the Founders Edition. And I talked to him today, so he took the Founders. They sent everybody else's out from China. And so he took all the ones that were the Founders Edition, like the highest tier on Kickstarter. He sent them to Italy so that whenever he got back to Italy, he could ship them, like, more securely or something, or more reassured methods from Italy. So the Founders are being handled with more diligent care, which means that they're taking much longer. So
Does that mean that they're made in Italy and not in China? Or they're just being shipped from Italy?
I think they were made in China, but babied all the way to Italy so that they could be stork delivered to their final destination.
Okay.
But yes, it is legit. It's worth the money. I super duper liked it. I'm gonna play with it while you guys talk.
Cool.
I'm geeking out about the John Wick 3 trailer.
That was cool.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the last two. Very, very impressed with the Kinect style of the filmmaking, and, you know, some gratuitous violence is, you know, can be fun at times. So I'm looking forward to the third one. I've become a fan.
Saw the cameos in the third one.
Yep.
Morpheus is there.
He's in the second one too.
Was he?
Yeah.
I remember I saw Halle Berry's going to be in this next one.
Yep.
Mm.
More dogs.
That dog scene at the end did look super cool.
Yep.
Well, I've been trying to, in preparation for Workbench Con, and trying to think about my channel and ways to grow my channel. I realized that I should probably take on bigger projects because a lot of the stuff that I do it's very small in size and in scope, and so I've been thinking about what bigger projects I can do. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is like a playhouse, or we don't have trees, so not a tree house, but maybe like a fort type structure. And so I've been Googling a lot of playhouses and seeing the insanely extravagant things that some people have built for their children, and just kind of marveling at the ingenuity and the creativity of a playhouse for kids. So that's what I've been geeking out about.
Make plans for that.
Yeah. And my expandable workbench, I'm trying to learn SketchUp and failing miserably, so I may just have to do like drawings.
Let's see. Geeking out. I can't think of anything, honestly. I think I spent all my geeking out points earlier.
Just your project?
Yeah, just my project. I've been watching some other laser engraving videos lately. There's a laser manufacturer called Trolltech, I believe. Trotech. They have a lot of good videos, and they're using materials that I never even considered or knew that they were available for lasering. Like they have this like metallic foil stuff, which you can like apply to like a plaque or like a piece of walnut, and it's adhesive on one side, and then you laser your thing, and it's basically doing like a vinyl cutter operation, and you peel this excess stuff off, and it leaves behind what you want. You kind of like weed out the little excess plastic, and that's how you make like plaques, like legit plaques with like the piano glossy, the black glossy plaques you see like at a sporting event or whatever that someone's name's on. That's how they do that. That's a way they can do that. They just laser it directly on the plaque, which is pretty cool. They've been doing some other ones using like different types of acrylic. They made like a stained glass thing for a window, a giant one, because their lasers are like 4 by 8 feet crazy big.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not all of them, but the one they're like, oh, we're just gonna load up a sheet of acrylic, and it was like a 4 by 8 piece of acrylic. I'm like, oh my goodness. And they're doing all these like crazy tactics and techniques, and they basically used like 20 different colors of acrylic and made this giant stained glass window kind of thing. So I don't have one of their products, but their videos are pretty sweet. So got some ideas. There's like light boxes they're doing with like LED backlighting. I want to do like a Twitch recording, box, like notification I put outside my shop so people can not bug me when I'm recording. Not that hasn't been done, but I want to use the laser for that, since I'm learning all these new techniques. You can do.
What was the name of the channel?
I believe it's. Let's see. Let me type real quick. Trolltech laser. Yeah, TROTEC. Trotech.
Stained glass acrylic.
Yeah, they have a lot of cool videos. I haven't even gone through all of them. They're just, and a lot of them are really short, so you can get little tips and tricks. Like they were doing a thing with like acrylic where if they wanted a piece of acrylic stuck to another piece of acrylic, instead of having to like cut two things and then like take either 3M tape off the back and stick it, or like epoxy it or something like that, they took the two pieces of acrylic and stacked them and put them in the laser at one time. And when they lasered through this, like let's say they cut a circle through these two pieces, the melting plastic from the outside of the top layer will melt down into the second layer, and it like bonds it. Like they use that as a tactic and a technique. I'm like, I'm gonna have a project that I could have used that on earlier, and now I used it like quickly earlier today on my Nintendo project.
Did it work?
And it worked. Yeah, I made like this
Did you
little.
cut through the top layer?
it was powerful enough beam to cut through both pieces at one time, but it like had, I guess they called it the plastic slag around the outside, just went down the second, cut, if that makes sense, of the second piece, and I looked at it. I'm holding it up right here on the camera. Actually, that's not the one. I used it already. This is one that's super glued. Actually, yeah. You can't really tell, but there's actually 3 pieces worth, and it's not focusing, but there's 3 pieces worth. The top one was super glued. You see the seam. The second one is actually 2 fused pieces. You can't even see the seam. I couldn't break them apart if I wanted to. It looks like one solid piece, but it was 2 originally. Pretty
interesting.
Neat. Yeah. So they have a lot of cool tips and tricks that I never even thought of. So.
How'd you like that smell?
It's gross.
Yeah. Acrylic on that laser is terrible.
I have pretty good ventilation, and I guess I've just gotten used to how good burned wood smells. I like it anyway, and so it doesn't come off as revolting. Even if I didn't even notice it, you know what I mean? It's just I'm so used to the smell.
Acrylic?
The wood. Wood smells good. So I'm so used to the wood that I don't notice it, that I smell anything, even though 98% of it goes outside. That 2% I don't really notice anymore. As soon as I did the acrylic, bad.
Yeah. It is offensive.
Yes.
I remember Evan and Caitlin talked about how cutting or burning leather was worse, and I disagree. I think the acrylic was so much worse than the leather.
I've got some leather. I'll try it. I'll let you know.
Cool. It's like the leather's like, ew, that smells like burnt hair, kind of gross.
Mm-hmm. It's like a natural smell.
Yeah. The acrylic is just like I'm probably killing a lot of brain cells somewhere. Yeah. Even with the ventilation.
Yeah.
It just permeates through. Ugh.
But cool channel. Check it out.
All right, well, we would love to hear from all of you. Go ahead and check out our website, makinggeeks.com. And on the contact page on the site, you can ask us any questions, provide any suggestions for the show right there on that page. And on the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes, including this one, right there on makinggeeks.com.
If you want to find us on social media, you can find the Making Geeks podcast at the Making Geeks podcast. Sean can be found over at Geek Builders. Josh is found at the PI Workshop or at I Like to Make Stuff. Wes is found over at his site, Geeksmithing. You can also find him on Twitch. And then I am found at Once Upon a Workbench.
I would like to take this time to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for helping support our show, especially our top patron, C3D Workshop. Thank you. Sorry. Yes. C3D Workshop.
Try that again.
See, I'm not reading it. Normally I've been reading it every time. This time I've tried not reading it, and I screwed it up. So apologies to our top patron, C3D Prop Shop. Thank you for our top patron, C3D Prop Shop, for your support. If you'd like to help us out and have me mispronounce your name on air, head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks.
With a plug like that, we got people waiting in line.
Sponsors, come on, what's up?
Well, everybody would like to thank you for hanging out with us on this kind of real talk episode. We thank you for everybody in the live chat on YouTube. If you want to come hang out with us and interact with the people there, it happens around 9:30 Eastern time every Thursday. And if you prefer the audio version, you can check that out on any given podcast player. Search the Making Geeks podcast and subscribe to it, and that'll be delivered every Saturday. So I'd like to thank you for hanging out. I hope you have a good week. No, man, I messed that up. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
See ya.
Take care.
Got on a roll and screwed myself up.
See how it works?
Yeah.
You thought it was so easy, didn't you?
E3's TDs.
So I was not in the live chat because